So where in the world am I finding you tonight, Al?
I'm in New England, baby.
Yeah. For your whole life, or do you have time living anywhere else?
No, New England. Yeah, various different parts around it, but New England.
And the realtor in me always wants to know: is there anywhere else you'd rather live?
I could do other places, but there's
I don't know.
only one.
Have you
place
tried other
I would call-
places?
There's only one place I would call home. That would be East Coast of the United States.
Yeah.
I can spend time other places for sure, though.
And have you been able to do that lately? I mean, is travel a part of your life? Do you carve out time for just leisurely travel?
Yeah, I mean, I just got back from New York City. That was cool.
You were in Spain in the fall, in the late fall?
Yeah, I was in Spain. I've been in and out of Spain a few times. My fiance lives in Spain, and she's
Amazing.
here now. So
Okay, beautiful.
yeah, it's cool stuff.
Blessings to you. Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
And that's her heritage? The Spanish
Yeah.
heritage? Okay. And how did you two meet?
I DM'd her.
Had a babe.
There we go.
Shoot your shot, as they say in some corners of the culture. But
For sure.
well, that's
We're
tremendous.
shooters, man. We're shooters. We shoot.
Yo, I know you are. I mean, my first introduction to you, Al, was via Robert Phoenix, and I said, who is this witty and dry and ruthless commentator? Especially when you guys, and I don't know if you guys have continued any. I mean, do you have any regular appearances with him still? It's been a minute since I've tuned in, but do you still tap into his world to share your unique perspective on culture and sports and things like that?
If so, I'll just call him. We had a great run with Sirius Sports. He's one of 5 people that I will listen to. You know what I mean? On a Sunday night. What does he call it? The Farcast.
Yeah.
Sunday night's Astro Live. Friday night's the Farcast. He's a gravy PhD. So
you're lucky. You're lucky. I know what gravy is in reference to. I mean, maybe we can define terms here, but I think I've learned from you, from the horse's mouth, as it were, that I mean, some of that top 5 are Robert Phoenix with his, I mean, really staggering, well-rounded knowledge of so many elements of just our collective consciousness. Topher Gardner, the inimitable, who's been a guest on the show, we did almost 3 hours after he had finished the Dome in Bertaria. And I think Owen Benjamin is someone you enjoy listening to as well. How else would you round out that top 5 for people that you are actually worth your energy of attention?
I would give my top 5, I would say, this is a good one. I would go, because it's a good 5. I'm going
to ask you your top 5 favorite books next. So
okay.
I'm just kidding. I just want one.
Dr. Shiva for me is that guy's a Ferrari. In terms of he's going a mile a minute and there's no brakes. So Dr. Shiva. I like Owen. I see Owen is like he's like this satellite that's receiving signals, and he broadcasts it out with no filter. So he's an important satellite in that sense. So there's Owen. I like this guy, Paul Town, who's from the same area as Owen. Paul Town has really good media analysis, and he's just 4 or 5 layers of irony deep. So you got to catch him where you can. And
that's a new name for me. And what sort of channels is he on? Paul Town?
I don't even know. He's got like a Twitter. He writes books, and he doesn't spell check them. He just goes for it. So it's like, and he had he's been public about it. He's had some issues, and he's a volatile individual at times, but he's a very interesting guy. So, and he's somebody who has no filter at all. So it's like he's emitting a huge signal, and it's like, whoa, I'll pick up on it. I'll read in between the lines and understand it on some sort of psychic level. So there's him, and who else? I like Robert Phoenix. That's what, 4?
Yeah.
And number 5, I'm going with me. Because
I'm so stoked that you said that, because we need more delusional confidence. I'm not saying your confidence is delusional. I'm just saying.
No. We got that delusions of grandeur for sure.
Yeah. And so I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm taking a shot in the dark as we do, that there was a time where you probably held more space for a lot more inputs than that. I mean, like, was Joe Rogan part of your media diet at one point? Like, because one of the threads that I wanted to follow with you, Al, is because so much of what I'm driven to so much of what drives me to reach out to people like yourself is just to probe more of your story and your hero's journey, and to figure out how you've been navigating this, I mean, just profoundly dynamic time where I feel like, as I have been walking the path of health and vitality, I feel like I change almost every day. I feel like my sensitivities are such that I'm compelled to change something about myself and my perspective, and especially the things that I consume, on an almost daily basis. And one of the places I've landed lately, not just in this season of winter, certainly in this season of life, is doing a lot more with a lot less. And that's a feature of consumption and materialism, as well as I'd rather sharpen my attention to, again, a few trusted inputs, and then certainly make time to hear my own intuition and my own self. So to round all that out into a question, I mean, I'm certainly curious how you look back and frame your own place as both consumer and then creator of media, and how you came to that refined place, your refined palette of just 5 real movers and shakers like that. I mean, so, pull no punches. Give me, because again, a lot of this is reflected from, like I told you in our email, me taking a comical look at myself, and how the care factor for things that really are of no import, like rap culture and a lot of sports culture as well, used to occupy a fair amount of my time and my self-perception and things like that. So I'm hopeful that we can have that as a motif throughout our conversation. But yeah, if you would please just share some of, it can be recent history, it can be ancient history, of how you've navigated capital C culture.
Okay, well, it's funny you mentioned Rogan. He's part of it. So when I was at the University of Rhode Island in 2014, my roommates were really into Joe Rogan's stand-up. They thought it was super funny. I didn't think it was funny at all.
They're the only two.
Yeah, I didn't get it. I was just, I've never necessarily gravitated towards that art form in terms of watching it and laughing out loud, right? So anyways, so my roommates like it, but I did like his intellectual curiosity in his podcast. Yes. So I plugged into him when he would host Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson, because they were talking about ancient civilizations. I was like, whoa, I'm there. And so I started watching his podcast like every day. Now, I didn't find it funny, but I found it interesting. I would watch like the whole thing. And then I started a blog when I graduated in 2015, and I would start writing, just random stuff. I would write about a rapper from Miami named Stitches. I would write like, Stitches taking over the world? And then he would end up sharing it. And then I was still listening to the Joe Rogan Experience. So I'd write about a show. I'd write top 5 reasons you need. This is 2015. Yeah. So Rogan's on YouTube. He's doing like 50 to 100,000 views per episode. And I would write top 5 reasons why you need to check out the Joe Rogan Experience. And then Joe Rogan would share it. So Joe Rogan would he was like a regular reader of my blog back in 2015. From then I kind of listened to people for a while. Then I move on. I would start listening to this guy, Gavin McInnes. I listened to him for a while. And then I started listening to Fuentes a little bit, just enjoying him. A little bit, a lot of Dr. Shiva, his streams. And then, I did a show in 2018. I interviewed a bunch of these people. And then that show kind of crashed out. It did some cool things, but it eventually crashed out. And then I remember the guy I was doing that show with, he said to me, hey, this guy, Owen Benjamin, he's crushing it on Super Chat, and he plays piano. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? It's like, what are you talking about, pal? And so I caught on to Owen the White Claw era. So I'm like a White Claw veteran.
And I've only heard the lore of the White Claw era, yeah.
So I was big into that, probably 20 to 23, doing all my own projects at the same time. That's who I was listening to. But now it's like, I don't have time really to listen to too many people. If I do listen to people, it's not for a long time. You got to go all in as far as creation of your own stuff, because consuming other people's stuff is going to influence your stuff. And that can be good, that can be bad, that can be good for a time period, and then you got to move on. So I don't really listen to like anybody. I still shout out to Dr. Longo. He's awesome too. Like I love his stuff. But I'm not really watching anything nowadays. You know what I mean? I'm trying to produce, and make that direct connection, whether it's online or off. Because the only thing that matters is your direct connection with people, and that's about it.
Well said, and thank you for those candid admissions that you were ensnared by the likes of Fuentes. I mean, I'm sure that was just a curiosity thing. First time I heard of Nick Fuentes was via the Owen Benjamin streams, and the way that he can distill things, it does make it seem so obvious. But I had no direct experience with that anyway. I especially appreciate, Al, what you said, that the signals do get murky the more that you consume other people's creation. And so, was there an epiphany you had, or any singular moment where you said, I do need to turn down the input signals that I'm getting in favor of my own creation? And I'm especially curious, what is this? Is it a push or a pull that is inspiring you to, like you said, go all in on your own creation? I mean, has that been from the jump you've been like that? Is that a recent thing? I mean, what is it that really motivates that all-in mentality for the things that you do in terms of real creation?
So I think I stopped. It was an evolution. It's always an evolution. It doesn't happen overnight. So 20 to 22 to me was like the truther vortex. Like that was peak trutherism. Me personally in 2020, all I had was a Twitter account because I'm like, I'm not going on the internet. Like, I'm letting the guys who are doing it, let them doing it. They're doing a great job, and I'm going to support them because I see what's going on, but I don't have any incentive to do anything right now. I'm going to have a Twitter account, and I'm going to do my construction job.
This is part of my own interest as well, is where did you find yourself in 2020? Did you feel like you were equipped to analyze and to be skeptical of what was being put out there? Because I've admitted this. I'm happy to do it for you, as well as, I mean, anybody listening to this show knows that I was not prepared. I mean, I was working in real estate in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I think I wore 2 masks at one time, man. I mean, honestly.
That's okay.
And
yeah, you can evolve.
Well, that's exactly right. And so I've part of my journey as well has been giving myself the grace that, I was doing the best I could. I thought I was in the world of health and compassion, and I wasn't SJW. I was aware of the pitfalls and perils of that. Even still, I was still very much like, it's a little more than I would ask for to upset other people. So who am I to really go against the flow? And thankfully, I had my gut check of, even in the world of real estate, where we're independent contractors, the broker of my very successful team, we had a terrific relationship, gave me the ultimatum in January of 22, said, if you don't get up to date on all of your shots, you're not going forward. And so that was my opportunity to really lean into that resistance. And it's been a very steep learning curve since. So I do have empathy, or I guess you could say, sympathy and empathy are interesting words. We'll come back to their differences. But so you felt like in 2020 you were fairly well equipped to see through what was going on.
Yeah, big time.
Okay.
I was so it's funny though. I was at this construction job, and things are starting to happen, and I'm also prior to March of 2020, I was attending a Russian Orthodox church just every Sunday, just like enjoying my experience. Great chorus. Yeah. Interested in Orthodox Christianity. So I'm going to this church on Sundays, and I'm working with these guys, and we were cool. And then they say to me, hey, Alan, if you go to church, you better not to go to church. Don't do that. There's this thing. I called it Bologna viral. I would always call it Bologna viral because March 2020, I'm like, this is Fugazi. And I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that I started my truther journey, if you will, I don't know, like 12, like in middle school, like, hey, something's not adding up. You know what I'm saying? This school is designed like kind of a jail, and I don't trust these people. I don't trust those people. So, from there, so these guys are like, oh, you better not go to church. I'm like, oh, I'm definitely going now. Yeah. These guys are like, I'm definitely going now. I can't wait. Yeah. And, but no, the church shut down too. So from there, it was like, just kind of go to work, do my thing. And there wasn't too much. We had to wear masks around the clients because when they would come in with gas masks. And my mentality towards this thing is sort of the same. It's like, I don't doubt for any second that people got sick, but I think that ultimately, I compare it to the war on terror. Do you remember in the war on terror where after September 11th, people were couch locked? And then they're watching TV all the time and they're thinking to themselves, oh, there's a terrorist around this corner, terrorist around this corner. I saw that same effect with Bologna viral, where they're pumping all this fear. And in people's minds, they sort of, I think some people at least manifested their own sickness. I think that is possible. That's my interpretation of the situation. So I do believe people got sick, but I do believe that it was caused by fear, and, you know, maybe something else. I'm not an expert. That's generally my interpretation because I didn't get sick. Not once. You know what I'm saying? I'm sick now. I can get sick. I'm a human being. That's right. But
in your time, in your own way, you know, as your body calls for it. And I do spend a fair amount of time on this podcast. And even, I mean, you talk about, which I'm looking forward to leaning more into, the person-to-person connections when you really get to feel people out, push them, lean into them, give them grace, all the different ways that we are more competent in how we deal with one another. It is something that I am most willing and able to talk about, is to invite people to think, well, how do you really know that that's how you got sick? You know, that it's invisible little things that are out to get you, and, you know, your spouse got sick, but you didn't, and, you know, all your kids got home from school and you just say, oh, I know I'm going to get sick. I mean, this is beyond the power of the mind. I have a much more evolved and what I think is a much more beautiful worldview to consider the terrain, to consider the brilliance and wisdom and timeliness of when we actually do go through detoxes. And a lot of that is in relationship to our environment with other people, certainly our biofields, you know, our energy around other people. The whole mathematics around 6 feet of distance and all that was valid insofar as that it kept people from really connecting. But and it took me a while to get there, Al, because I was still in, you know, the bioweapon and you know, and I did 3.5 hours on the fucking lab leak theory, and I don't believe that anymore for a second. And that podcast is still up. Like, and not that people are going back to the annals of this podcast, but, you know, like, I always appreciate and respect the approach of someone like Owen Benjamin says, I'm gonna leave it up.
Yeah,
you know, I may be wrong, but I'm not lying is such a valuable disclaimer. It's such a valuable mantra to go through life if you have any sort of voice. And it's no different than if we were doing a show versus if it was just the two of us, you know, having a meal together. I'm not here to deceive you. I'm giving you the best version of things when I choose the most beautiful world that I think is possible, which includes there's no invisible enemies out to get me that I need to be vaccinated from. It's a much more natural occurrence.
Well, I would say this. So when Dr. Sheep was talking about, again, March 2020, like, that's who I kind of see as my sort of criteria for who is calling it what in 2020. He's saying 2020. March 2020.
Al, you have my full attention. I'm just giving us some battery here. But
okay,
keep
cool.
rocking.
So he's talking about vitamin C, how to build your immune system. How do you do it? Vitamin C is a huge part of it. Sunshine is a huge part of it. Vitamin C, vitamin D, but also being social. Human beings building their gut biome through human connection are ways to build your own immunity. Community is the immunity, as some people might say. So I'm listening to that, and it's complete 180 from what's being broadcasted, just 24/7 nonstop. You know what I mean? And it's funny because it's like what they were saying on TV, and it's like, okay, I drive by a hospital's empty. But according to the TV, there's just bodies on bodies on bodies on bodies, and it's just like, okay, I'm tuned out. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna go to work. I'm gonna listen to my podcasts, and I'm kind of living my own world for a little bit, and we're gonna ride this thing out. But this ties into what I was saying earlier, because in my view, 20 to 22 was this vortex where truthers got overconfident and they started making big claims, and a lot of them have not retracted any of it. So one thing I look for in people is the ability to admit where they're wrong. In post 2022, I didn't see that from too many truthers. Like, I saw them making all these big predictions during that truther vortex, all this fugazi, all this, you know, reset, mud flood stuff. And a lot of them have had the courage to retract their sort of truther vortex of 20 to 22, but a lot of them haven't admitted when they've been wrong. So that's why, also why I don't really listen to that many people anymore at all.
And how have you always had that filter for fugaziness, and to have that discernment with people that, okay, if you're not going to at least even intimate, at least even allow the space for you being wrong, then I can't really trust you. Has that been something that you've come by the hard way with being deceived by people, either personal or public, or have you always had that read?
It's definitely evolving, but one thing I always look for is people's bottom line. What's their bottom line? How are they paying the bills? What's up with that? You know what I mean? Because that'll tell you a lot. And if you can't identify their bottom line, it gets a little murky. That's when things get shady. But at the same time, when you talk about media figures, especially within the political sphere and in the health sphere, anybody can get pinched. Anybody can get influenced.
Yeah.
Anybody can be incentivized. So oftentimes I don't think it's this grand conspiracy where this guy's a controlled op, that guy's a controlled op. No, I think people are incentivized, and I think anybody can get pinched or paid off or whatever. So my outlook is my own eyes and ears is a good barometer. And that's about it. And there are no heroes online. None. Not me. Nobody.
No heroes, no idols. I mean, that's been not only refreshing, it's been very nourishing to honor that, to know that there can be no idols. I mean, I don't profess to say exactly what my spiritual life is like. I have one, and that's been something that has absolutely evolved in the last several of years, because I think my sequence, Al, has been when I started in the just broadening my curiosity from being an athlete to so I went to Assumption College out in Worcester for a whole
Solid,
year.
Man.
Made it a whole year.
I went to Worcester Academy for a little bit.
You did, you son of a bee sting. And some athletics for you there? Mm-hmm. Or were you just a Latin scholar?
No, I was a quarterback.
Okay.
I was following in the footsteps of Colt Brennan for a little bit. You know what I mean?
Oh my God! You're lucky. I know who Colt Brennan is. Rest in peace, Colt Brennan.
Yeah, for sure.
Which I have to say, Al, and we'll take this in this direction at some point, I'm sure. I have felt, for the first time in a while, an organic call to lean back into a little bit of football watching. I didn't watch a single Patriots game all year until the other day, and first of all, it was a treat to watch it and not be up and down with every incompletion and 3 and out, and it was just like, I'd like to see some smart football, good plays, weather management, anything like that. I watched about 3 minutes of the Rose Bowl, which was Indiana and Alabama, and I said, this is despicable. I mean, it's such a far cry from what it was like to have. And I'm willing to jump on this this pedestal with you if you're game. I mean, I'd love your thoughts to invite this now, especially for college football. I mean, we probably sound like old timers, although hey, I mean, boys got to get their money and all of that. But it's just become so obvious the, dare I say, lack of football IQ that comes from, I'm just going to be a great athlete, and you can plug and play me with whatever school, whatever system, whatever. You all right there, honey? You got this, Novak. You got this, buddy. Sorry about that. And it's because, I mean, I grew up, my first favorite athlete ever other than Roger Federer was Reggie Bush. And, I was born in Southern California. I have ties out there. And, of course, that, pretty epic era. Colt Brennan, probably similar era, right? Late 2000s.
Around there, yeah.
Mid-2000s. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Heisman season used to be, one of my favorite times of the year, and it's just such a far cry from that now. And I don't know if that it's all been corrupted by NIL. Do you still have a pulse on that particular brand of football, college football specifically? And what's your take now that this latest Shosham has come to an end? Where do you stand on that culture right now?
Well, generally, as it applies to the Coliseum, the truth or take is, don't you know this is gladiator games, dur. Well, guess what? The emperors and the empresses still go. So it's not wise to actually turn your nose up at the Coliseum, because it's fun and you're not above it. And there are powerful inversions in play where people's good instincts for tribalism, for sharing moments of victory with their family and their friends, this is powerful stuff against another rival tribe. That's all working, to sort of propel this thing. In terms of college football, I have to be honest. I love NIL. I think it's awesome. I think that my experience with college football, I walked on a team and I walked off at a Stonehill College, right? I walked on, I walked off the football team because it was like, I don't want to be a crash test dummy for 4 years.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I got to figure out my own life. You know what I mean? But I remember being just worked. Like it was work. It's 80 hours a week. The playbook was by far my hardest class. And that school did not have the numbers to, you know, compete in terms of college football attendance. We have no college football culture in the Northeast. But for a long time, it was a slave racket where these guys are generating so much. They're working in a field and they're generating millions and millions of dollars and they're not getting paid.
That's right.
So I'll take it a step further. When I went to the University of Rhode Island, me and my buddy, we started a startup company where, you know, people would order food online. We had hungryroadie.com in Rhode Island. We had hungryhuskies.com at UConn, right? And Shabazz Napier, when he wins the national championship, he's screaming about how they're hungry Huskies. So we thought he was giving our website a shout out, but I think what he was saying is valid because the TV contracts are making millions. The school's making millions. The one people who aren't getting, the group of people that's not getting paid was the players. And from there, it's insane. But what the next step that needs to occur is the acknowledgement that these are employees. They need contracts. They need unions. I think that the farce of college football, which is the top dog by far, and then basketball, then maybe if you're an Instagram model athlete that happens to play in college, then you can make a bunch of money, like a Livy Dunn or something like that. But that's the whole game, and it is professional. It's been a professional for a while, and I think that I'm interested in honesty and transparency and professionalism, and I'm okay with that.
And thank you for that 180 perspective. And I that's on me for I think I'm conflating NIL with the evolving landscape of transfer portal and things like that. I mean, and I have no primary sources connection to what went on with Ole Miss and LSU and all that, but just the scuttlebutt around guys jumping ship in the midst of, you know, when the ship is in a storm, or when the ship is trying to find buried treasure, you know, and you just say, no, sorry, I'm gonna bounce. That stuff is kind of wild. And I mean, that I guess when that's your mentality of, you know, I am an employee and I just got to go where the better offer is, you know, that is likely to win the day. But yeah, I mean, I know it was by no means pure and perfect and completely professional back in, you know, early 2000s and mid 2000s and anything before this. It's just it does seem a far cry, really, from the quality and caliber that it used to be. And you know, when I saw someone like Nick Saban get out of there, at first I was like, oh, you know, he gets where the wind is blowing to. But it's also, I'm sure he, you know, there might be some skeletons in that Alabama closet, let's just say. With
I think Saban's retiring was super symbolic. You know what I mean? And the fact that the guys, all four coaches who were in the college football playoffs, the Final Four, they were all derivatives of Saban. Christopher Gardner, who you've mentioned before, he said to me that he knows how to grind the meat, and I believe that. But at the same time, I'm not going to kiss the guy's ass. I don't care. I don't care. And it's like, if people want to be less enthusiastic about college football, I salute them, because the fact of the matter is, these professionals, it has nothing to do with education. You know what I mean? Like, I can't imagine that there's too much of a student body professional football player that happens to wear a logo. I can't imagine there's too much camaraderie. I don't think there's too much in common there. I think they're entirely different. There's a lot of intertwining, don't get me wrong, but I think it's a professional group that plays in the Southeast, the Midwest, and the West Coast. You know what I mean? In a few schools in the Northeast. And I think it's professional. I'm just an advocate of honesty, and that next level of honesty where I think we'll eventually get to. And as far as people being less enthusiastic, I support that, because the game has downgraded. I mean, a lot of these schools, they're all in shotgun. They're all running similar stuff, and at times it becomes boring. At times it's like this college football game's. I'm not I'm not going to be here for 2, 3, 4 hours. You're crazy. The only time I was really into college football was when I was gambling, and I was watching like 3 or 4 games at once. The gambling aspect of things is where I think that the whole country has become Las Vegas, bro. Like,
yeah, I'm very keen to dig into that with you, because I mean, it sounds like you were in the pits of it.
mm-hmm.
You know, that has never. I mean, I joke. You know, without having any affiliations to the tiny hats, I just love my money too much. You know, to risk it at all. I've just never had that compulsion in my life. I shouldn't say never. I mean, maybe I've been tempted. I mean, I've had no sure things, tips, or anything like that. And to say nothing of being a student of it, the math and the odds and all the background. I mean, so I think of all the places to start, I'm curious, did your truthing sleuthing dovetail with your time gambling? Because I mean, the back end research you have to do to find out, you know, what the context might be for who's going to perform on Sunday and who's not, you know, was that an asset to you? I mean, were those going on at similar times?
It's a little bit of that and a little bit of delusion, a little bit of I think I'm the Swami. I'm able to predict with my truther goggles who's going to win the Super Bowl based on this conspiratorial schizo belief that I have about this player and that player and this team and that team and this global agenda. So for a while I was thinking that, because I was thinking to myself in 2020, we bring it back. I'm like, in September of 2020, I was like, the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. And then I'm thinking, nah, the Golden State's going to win too. And they're both that blue and yellow color. And they played this. And so I'm kind of in this schizo lane, but I'm schizo overconfident because I predicted the Rams, right? And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to predict the next thing based on some of the geopolitical, you know, 4D chess, however you want to call it, that's going on. But then I started paying attention to the transfer portal, and I make a big prediction. I say, hey, Colorado's going to beat TCU week 1. TCU was in the national championship. Colorado, Deion's the coach. It's all this momentum. They're taking advantage of the transfer portal. They got all these studs. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to bet on this team. I won. And then I'm high. You get that high.
Oh, yeah.
And then from there, I'm like, oh, wait a second. Texas Longhorns versus Alabama week 2. I win again. And I'm like, whoa, I'm that guy. I'm going to these other sports bettors have no clue. I'm this truther schizo. They don't even know what's going on geopolitically. They don't really know, right? So I'm like a little delusional. And then I keep gambling like every weekend. And I'm having a great time. And I'm having not so great of a time. Eventually it gets tiresome. And eventually I'm like, okay, I got to have sort of a baptism, my own personal life. I need to be reborn. And I started surfing. It's like, I can't be this guy. I'm not this guy. You know what I mean? So I'm done with this for the most part. A few bets here and there, but I've pretty much retired from that. But I had to I had to crash out in a different way with surfing and find a different hobby to, you know, develop this new obsession, you know, identity in a sense, and also just something to do that's you can focus my time and energy training towards that versus, you know, checking out what's going on with the transfer portal.
Yeah. What was the nudge to get into surfing of all?
I don't know, activities? Just a whim. I was like, you know what? I'm buying a board. I'm doing it. Like, let's go, you know?
And you still make time for that? I mean, I know it's pick your spots with, although I mean, when you go to Spain, I mean, do you make time for surfing if you go to that part of Europe? I mean, is that?
Yeah, surf's big there. There's this one spot I've been to, but it's something I want to do more. But I do it, you know, in New England, baby. In the winter is the best time, actually, because there's less crowds. Yeah. I would say winter, not January, February, but more so like December, and then I'll start again in March. But I'm in the gym. That's what I train for. I think it's important to train for something. I know you train for tennis, but that adds to my point that when people are in the gym, I don't train just to train. There has to be a sport or a skill, or if it's lifting, fine. You know, lift to lift more. Okay, that's fine. If that's what you want to do, I think that's cool. If that's what you're into. But I think, because those guys are training for something, but I think when you train, you got to train for something. So that's what I'm training for. Right?
I wholeheartedly agree, and I think that's beautiful that you found that, because there are few. I've been intrigued over time with the myths and the heroes and icons of surfing. I mean, of course, I've known who Kelly Slater is for a long time. You familiar with Laird Hamilton?
Dude, I'm very familiar. Laird Hamilton's like the model. Like, that's who I want to be like. You know what I mean?
Okay. So I was a part of a men's group, a virtual men's group. My first and only to date. and it's become a really significant bookmark in my life. Introduced me to a beautiful and close friend, my good buddy Matthew Coleman, who's a international beach handball athlete. And I mean, talk about body awareness. I mean, and he and I are very much aligned. Some things that we learn from someone like Laird Hamilton, which is training for life, and knowing that what you do with any weights in your hand or any sort of resistance training or anything like that should transfer to a fair amount of fluidity, resilience, problem solving on the fly. I mean, and there are a few things as challenging for that as surfing, I would imagine. I don't have personal experience with it. I'm looking forward to the day when I do. But Laird came to speak to us as part of our men's group, which was really special. We had about 2 hours with him. And then when they convened the group the second time around, which I was not part of, but Gabby Reese, his wife, came and spoke. And I've watched those sessions a couple of times. Just one thing that comes to my heart to share with you is that I always think about Laird, something that he shared when we were asking him about, it was a men's group. We were asking, what does being a man mean to you? I mean, what is, some philosophy or principle that you can share with us? And he said, at least in my home, where he has, I think, 2 or 3 daughters, but it's all women around him, so pure chaos along with the ocean. Mm-hmm. He said, I am the pillar, I am the stillness, I am the one, I'm the rock that they can all lean on. I'm what's going to hold this home up. I'm not going to add more chaos to the chaos. I can't do that. And I think about that all the time. I think, as it occurs to me now, for the masculine energy to embody that, of course it requires a resilience and it requires a strength, but not a strength, this is the place where I've landed lately, not a strength that is rigid in terms of up and down with a barbell on my back, up and down with a barbell in my hands. My own training has evolved now to where I am constantly playing. It's a lot more play, man. It's a lot more dance. It's a lot more, I've become a really committed student of fascia and nervous system training. You familiar with Marv Marinovich? Does that name ring a bell at all?
I see some Asian guy that's always talking about fascia on it.
Yeah. So Chongzi, I believe his name is. So fascia, in terms of its health and how do you keep it healthy, I mean, a lot of that has to do with quality water, quality movement, not being so hyper-focused on muscle, because a lot of that is fairly rigid. And, I mean, we've seen even some of the best, most muscular athletes in the world are highly susceptible to non-contact injuries because they lack a certain give in their body. But Marv Marinovich was one of the pioneers of what is the most fast-twitch training that you can possibly imagine. It is literally twitching, the most explosive, the most plyometric, the bounciest training that I've encountered, and I've been at this for at least over 10 years now. Probably closer to 14, and it's been a game changer, man. I mean, it's been because it's so electrical. If you can catch my meaning on that, I feel like I'm really rewiring so many latent abilities in my body to be explosive, to anticipate, to react, and constantly maintain balance as well. One of the core tenets of this type of training is the stretch reflex shortening cycle. So basically, you go from fully extended to contracted fairly rapidly and be relaxed while you do it. And so I would imagine there's a fair amount of transition. When you're surfing, like, relaxation has to be one of the underlying elements of that, your ability to, yes, move quickly and adapt, but there's got to be relaxation in there, right? I mean, whether you're, I don't know if you feel like you're relaxed when you do it. I'm talking more about, is your body in a state of relaxation and responsiveness so that you can react to what the elements give you. I mean, if you can riff on your surfing experience, I'd just love to hear it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned electricity. When I'm in the ocean, I feel like I'm getting information. Even when I crash through the water, there's an electrical current going through it that, provides feedback during the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of managing your own body through relaxation, it's actually paramount, because it can be really difficult getting past the waves, right, when they're all crashing on you. And then to relax your body and, sit so you're in position to go do that sometimes all-out sprint with your paddle in order to catch a wave. So it's a lot of that in terms of start, stop, and stuff like that. So
And energy maintenance and conservation, because I mean, I can imagine one sprint just to catch a decent wave might gas out some people, and
especially when it's cold, because when I'm doing this in the cold, my shoulders get cooked. So
I'm sure. So how long is it now since you've found that baptism, that deliverance from gambling into the beautiful world of surfing? How long has that been?
Since 2023, spring of 2023. Okay. So yeah,
right.
It's something that, the first couple months I was just crashing, but I had to, you know what I mean? And I crashed out in order to crash up. So.
And your ego, you feel like, was in a good spot to be able to handle that, because I have said a lot recently, because I coach tennis as well.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to talking with you about that offline, because that is a worthy pursuit for you next.
Totally.
To bring a ball back into your life. I mean, do you have any love for tennis as a fan? I mean, do you
love it? Love it. Beautiful. It's a beautiful game.
It sure is. Do you know Emily Moyer, who's a friend of Robert Phoenix as well?
Yeah, Truther Circle.
Yeah, OG
Truther legend.
For sure. Yeah. She and I have done a couple podcasts together on any and everything. I mean, we did an epic one on time and time travel and things like that, but several terrific ones on tennis, because we share that mutual affinity for tennis. And but I bring that up to say, in coaching, I absolutely know why people are unwilling to change things. Because especially in tennis, it costs you points, therefore games, therefore sets, therefore matches, and most people's ego cannot handle that. I, like you, I mean, even though I've been playing tennis for most of my life, many years off when I went and focused on football, and then I was major into power and Olympic lifting, and then it was kind of just the gym before I came back to tennis, and that has sort of necessitated keeping my body much more electric and bouncy and fascia driven, and therefore resilient. But with teaching people, man, the resistance to getting worse before you get better, or even the remote perception by yourself or by anyone else, and it's rarely as drastic as falling off of a surfboard and getting absolutely tossed by surf and being cold anyway, and you're frustrated because you're not getting it. But I have seen firsthand just the intense resistance to looking worse. I mean, whether it's your own self-vision or from other people. But man, I have at least 6 to 8 months where my game got worse because I changed things like my grips, which have profound impact on how you swing the racket. I changed, whole swing paths, tactics, and whole different approaches, and it cost me a lot. But when in my best moments, I was able to go home and say, I stuck to my game plan. I'm doing the things that I know are going to work. And but I mean, that's a fairly new practice for me, is willingly humbling myself like that. And I'm curious, I mean, was it from football, or was it just your own journey of self-discovery and awareness that said, I can go surf and not give up after a couple weeks just as I'm getting fucking wrecked out of here? Like, was it, again, I'm curious which of these things are innate to you and you've always felt this trust in yourself to go for shit, and not really sweat getting knocked down, or if that's been more wisdom that's been earned the hard way over time.
I think it's just when you crash, you got to get back up. So it'd be comparable to getting tackled in football. You got to get up. You feel me? Like,
imagine saying that.
Yeah. So, but I have some theories I just want to just mention real quick, because I don't want it to slip away.
Let them fly.
My theory on time travel that you mentioned is, I think that tradition is a form of time travel. I think that when people meet, especially families, generations, at the same spot, at the same time of the year, every year after year after year, you connect with past generations and future generations via tradition. So that's my theory on time travel. And you mentioned Kelly Slater. If you want to dive into some lore, the ultimate lore is the Kelly Slater-Andy Irons rivalry, where they went back and forth on world titles. Kelly Slater is this professional athlete. Kelly Slater could have been a pro tennis player. He could have been a pro golfer. Yeah. He's a true professional athlete. Clean cut. He's got the look. He's got the brand. He's got it all. He's Kelly Slater. Yeah. Then there's Andy Irons. Andy Irons is effectively a mob boss. Mm-hmm. He's got serious drug problems, and he's volatile. But they're going back and forth. These completely polar opposite dudes, total rivals, going world championship, world championship, world championship, world championship, just going back and forth. So that's some lore.
Any documentaries or any media you'd point me in the direction?
Pinch My Salt podcast. Type in like a lot of these guys were living in Hawaii at these like the Billabong house where Andy Irons lives. Like, it just says it all, the Billabong house. And they're all living there, and it's like they're all surfing, but they're all like sponsored, so it's like their full-time gig. So I think it's Sterling Spencer. He's a funny podcaster. He tells a lot of the lore, and it's just, there's definitely some good documentaries about it. I don't know off the top of my head. I know there's one on Andy Irons that's really good. That recently came out within the last couple of years.
I'll give it a dive. Yeah, I know there was some allusions to it in. I feel like I saw at least one or two HBO documentaries years ago. But yeah, I'm easily interested, especially with things like embodiment and sport and competition. And I have heritage from New Zealand, so I have rugby I feel like is super entertaining anyway. But cricket, there's really nothing that doesn't intrigue me at this point, except for pickleball.
Good for you. I love that. I love that. Pickleball is an atrocity. It's truly sick.
Unfortunately, it is, and from what I understand,
well, I bet it's wicked fun. But
I can see the fun. I can see the fun. But then when I watch highlights, actually lowlights, the speed or lack thereof is just staggering. Mm-hmm. And I understand, things can ratchet up and you get some quick reflexes and stuff is fun. But from what I understand, this is the only country in the world where it's popular. Everywhere else, it's padel, which looks fucking electric. If you've seen padel, where they play off of every wall, so it's 360. And really pick your poison with any other paddle sport for sure. But speaking of 360, something you mentioned with time travel, or just time in general. I don't know if I've chosen my own principles around time yet. I've certainly had my limited experiences of flow, or just when I know that. For the most part, podcasts are very much like that. I haven't really had any grinding podcasts until now. No, I'm just kidding. In general, but this is how I knew. I give plenty of credit to Joe Rogan. What he introduced me to, the genuine intellectual curiosity, the portals he opened for me, especially early on in my health and personal evolution, were valid and vital. And one of the things that I said early on, and even up till a couple of years ago when I stopped listening to him, is like, okay, I said, okay, if he's the best, I'm definitely going to be a better quality podcaster than he is someday. And because I've just been interested in this craft, but as far as time goes, thanks to your perspective, as well as people like Emily and Robert and any other inklings I've had, the idea of, and we were just my love and I were just rewatching Joseph Campbell's The Power of Myth, and he talked about just that it is a circle, that it's Thanksgiving again, it's Christmas again, and you feel like even though we're so obsessed with the linear, the fact that, and certainly the more that I tune into, maybe not the nuances and the depths of astrology, I have a much more appreciation for just what a real moon cycle is, what the real timestamps of this realm are, but certainly seasons and what they mean for us in terms of what I feel, my own experience of where my energy is and what's important to me and what I can be doing inside, outside, and all of that. The wheel and the circle are much more interested to me because you're right. It does feel more connected, like within this circle, within this sphere even, we're contained. All of the memories that we have, all of that collective consciousness that we have, and it's certainly aligned with what I have felt and what I have even experienced of my own power to impact the past as well as the future through this powerful present. And it's like, again, I don't know if you've had any experience with this, but just the decision and the willingness and openness to connect to what was done before, before my conception or, in my childhood and all of that, is I feel more connected to that than ever, that's still fairly fluid, that I can have an impact on, even if it's just the way that story occurs to me now, to say nothing of, I feel like that event is now different in my present and therefore my future, because I don't consider it a dead thing. I don't consider my past an untouchable thing. I don't always have the perfect read on it, but especially with generations, I am connected to my generations, to the multitudes of my people, and my soul can can have that ability to change. So, yeah, anything else you would add to the time conversation, just as it's evolved for you?
That's about it.
Okay. Yeah, we could, because it is something that changed. My conception of it changes all the time. One timestamp I'll come back to with your experience with gambling.
Yeah.
I have a dear new friend, older gentleman who's been a holistic health coach here on the North Shore of Massachusetts for many years now. And his so he's in his mid 50s. Shout out to Mark, and so he's been on this path longer than you and I, and he never had coffee, never had alcohol, never had drugs. Grew up in that I think kind of that Beverly or Gloucester area, which can be kind of hard. People associate that with highbrow and affluence, but for the year-rounders, man, it's no picnic for a lot of those those seafaring scallywags around there. So, but I think he said for almost 30 years of his life, just about, gambling was his thing, and he has seen just the damage it brings almost inevitably, despite how good you think you are, but just what a true energy, currency suck, energy suck, anything like that. He said his deliverance was just meditation, is just, to go into quiet, to go into real contemplation, connection with intuition. But I bring that up as an anecdote to say, thankfully he didn't have all of the distractions of alcohol, drugs, etc., which are now, I think those are just part and parcel to the gambling. Is you get an ad for this, and right next you get the pop up for your local cannabis shop. Yeah. And I've heard you speak very emphatically about just what you've witnessed, especially here in New England, where I feel like those have really taken a stranglehold. And I would at this time invite just your what's your snapshot, what's your read on how that evolved, what you're seeing with, or just what you're aware of with the young men in your life, the men in your life, because it seems to be pervasive and certainly malevolent, because it's just pure distraction. It is robbing people of some of their most valuable currencies, those most valuable energies. So yeah, what's the forecast? What's the latest on those fronts?
Well, for me personally, it's like, as a natural contrarian, I cannot go along with the mainstream. Now that gambling is mainstream, it's in people's phones. It's not cool to me anymore. Same thing with cannabis. It's not cool to me anymore. It's completely mainstream. It's everywhere. I just can't do it. But as for gambling, I think that with a lot of things, a rigger's mindset is a winner's mindset. If you really want to win, you got to rig the game. So I think the big winners are rigging it in some way or another. As far as cannabis and where things are out with the country, I would say it's an open air Las Vegas. And I think that I'd encourage people to have their sin and their vice in check, because it could consume you during this time period because of the easy access in which you can acquire vice via your smartphone delivered to your house, whether it's Uber Eats, whether it's that double, triple fudge, sundae that you may or may not need, or that eighth of cannabis. As far as that go, I had an interesting experience where I went to Portland, Maine in 2025. The last time I had been to Portland, Maine was in 2015. I'm like, oh, it's a cool city. It's a cool little city. Cool. I like this. It's kind of cool. It's got some things going on. Walk around. 2025, totally different. 2025, tons of homeless people, a lot of people from wicked different parts of the world coming in. And it's just like a snapshot. But I feel like a lot of American cities are like that. And we can't act like cities like Oregon, Portland, Denver with rampant homelessness. We can't act like the cannabis availability isn't a overall negative impact on people's mental health. You see it in these cities, especially when you do a 2015, 2025 snapshot. And then we're basically where China used to be in terms of the opiate wars. The opiate wars are still going on, and they're happening here. And I've seen people hunched over in that, what do they call it? The fentanyl lean or whatever the heck it is. Once you see that enough times, it's like, oh my God, we need to reevaluate some of the libertarian stances some of us had. I know I had in, the 2015 time period.
For sure. And, it's not necessarily up to us to ascribe the why all of this is happening. Even if we just focus on the symptoms, I just have my own experience with the fact that the cannabis that I had easy access to, as opposed to what one of my dear friends out in Washington State grew biodynamically infused with his prayer and local spring water and grown outdoors or indoors under quality lighting. I mean, it's like your food, of course, Al, as you well know. I mean, all the elementals that go into it, because they are encoded with information that we then decode, makes tremendous difference. And I did not like the feeling anymore of, well, first of all, I massive credit to my love upstairs, because she just reality checked me enough as someone who has spent 99.999% of her time on this earth sober and Virgo and, highly critical and astute. And the accountability factor after 12 years with me is just, astronomical, truly. And I'm all the better for it, because I had enough times of her, just confronting me with it. Like, why do you do this? How does it enrich your life? You say you profess a holistic lifestyle, best quality inputs, why is this the exception? And I finally just had to concede my own self-deception, because I didn't really feel like it was enhancing my quality of life. I felt the distraction. First of all, Al, I mean, I should have left it with this. I don't like feeling slow. I like I said, part of the reason I've enjoyed this fast twitch training so much is like I actually feel, just electrically charged all the time, especially when I go play or just when I'm in the gym. But I'm up. I'm really charged up. And anything that would ameliorate or compromise that is a threat to my system, unless I choose that. My stance on vice has generally been, it does need to be, or it really, I really can't say should. There's no shoulds in this life. It can be truly occasional. But, watching a football game is not an occasion.
Yeah. I'm not saying be a Puritan, because I'm definitely not a Puritan either. No. And as far as cannabis goes, I used to smoke like a rapper. You know what I mean? I used to,
I'm sure.
So, because I was enthusiastic about it. I thought it was our civil rights battle. I was an enthusiastic, we're going to prove the stereotype wrong. I'm not going to, I smoke and play basketball.
Did you feel you were high functioning? Yeah.
I smoke and play Frisbee. They're wrong. Once we legalize it, everything will be amazing. Wait until these rappers get a hold of these libertarian politics. What now? Conservatives, liberals? I was that arrogant and borderline manic and kind of a radical. I was like a legalization of marijuana radical, right? And, I've been humbled. In terms of my own use, it was, Dr. Shiva, he told me, he's like, dude, if you're addicted to something, you're a slave to it. And I was just like, that was it. It's like, all right, I'm done. Yeah. It took a little bit, but it's like, I'm out, and the thing I would say to people is, my experience with illegal stuff, not good. It's just, what the heck is this? This is not the homegrown kind bud of the early 2000s. This is something way different, man. And I don't want any parts of it. So I'd be, if people want to grow their own, that's something that I do perceive as healthier. But this legal stuff, I recommend people stay away from it, because it's something different. And it's not, I don't think it's good. And I don't think it's good for the population. And I think we see it. And I think if we, we don't want to, I like to have delusions of grandeur, but I don't want to, lie to myself about my own experience or what I see out in the world.
No, and that's the most, of course, that's the most valuable. I mean, any abstraction otherwise is useless compared to what you've actually experienced. And I agree. I mean, from my own experience and then some valued perspectives from others, that there is something about, a plant's energy is much more of a feminine energy as well, and it can be chaotic, and it can be capricious. It can be there is something about the feminine element of this iteration of cannabis, especially when it's impacted by much more synthetic, again, the weird shit that, not the parasite class, but I mean, they're not, because I believe you feel this as well, Al, is the real creation is not being done by, the people that we give all the power to. Like they're copycats. Like they are parasitic, and that is that they're trying to prey upon the real creative force of others. And yeah, what is then being produced with something like the cannabis now is it is just full of true anxiety, chaos. Like a woman scorned is how someone put it to me. With the way that cannabis has been bastardized now is that the feminine essence of that plant that is being distributed now feels like a woman scorned who's just going to lash out, and it's going to corrupt, and it's going to just kind of toy with a lot of because it is predominantly men, who are leaning into this. And I mean that's what concerns me. I mean, and even on just to punctuate this, on the biological front, I do think there's some validity to how it compromises testosterone, and therefore
definitely it's a feminine plant. It's a feminine plant.
There you go. There's nothing about a feminine plant that would encourage that level of vitality and chi to then go be ejected or injected. It is compromising that. I just feel that. Like I said, I mean that was. I very rarely felt the urge like I do now, to say nothing of. I mean, one of to build a pillar next to this conversation. I should have stopped the day I heard this, but every day since, it's made it easier and easier to give up porn. When I heard Owen Benjamin say all porn is gay porn, and I finally that was the thing for me where I said, what the fuck am I even doing? I mean, this is just one of the more preposterous things that we do. Oh, can you tell us about your journey on that front? I mean, because you've seen it all. You're just a couple years older than I am. The fact that it went from this taboo, not occulted, but secreted part of the internet where you had to do some fair bit of legwork to get access to even some decent video pornography, to now fucking HD 4K in your phone. What were some of your own realizations around that? And because this is a part of the culture as well that I would imagine you're tapped into, is we see athletes and rappers and various people podcasting with porn stars. And I'm not casting aspersions on these women and who they are as humans and souls. It's just that I see the celebration of this, and it doesn't get more inverted than that to say like this person is deserving of our attention and esteem and value because of something that they've sacrificed that is so intimate and special. So yeah, what's been your latest perception around what the porn industry has done to especially our culture?
Yeah, I think it's definitely an evil thing, and I think Owen did a great job of putting everything into context for that, because it's not something that should be normalized in any way. It's something that should be totally illegal, and the best example from the hip-hop world would be a guy named Adam Grand Mason, and that's his real name. Adam 22 of the No Jumper podcast has created a demonic portal where he used to interview all these up-and-coming rappers, and then he got into that world, and he sort of created this demonic portal, this vortex in between the rap world directly into that world. So it's just so gross. It's all so disgusting, you know what I mean? So I think that and it's disgusting to hear people talk about it at work, and I think Owen did a great job of putting that into context for such a great amount of people. And it's just I stay aloof, very aloof to that.
It's a good way to be. I mean, and I thankfully it is so obvious now that those things are gross. I mean, one of the best fatherly bits of advice that my dad ever gave me was, I think he probably caught me with a Victoria's Secret magazine or something, pretty tame like that, as far as, pornography and objectification of women goes. But, no, I think it was something more XXX than that. But he said, just in a very earnest, straightforward, not a scolding way, he just said, I just want to let you know that it's not like that. And what is being portrayed is just so far from what it can be like for man and woman. I grew up Catholic, so it's husband and wife is the expectation. And it's a true degradation. It's a true
I just have a quick point. E. Michael Jones' book, it's called Libido Dominandi. Basically, the control mechanism is, it's not just that industry. It's everywhere in terms of the sexualization, sex, in terms of advertisements, everywhere. But the reason why, from a societal control standpoint, is that when human beings become with sex, they basically become monkeys. They become controllable monkeys. So that's why it's just pumped, because once a human being lowers themselves to that level, they have become a controllable monkey. So that once, like something simple like that, I'm like, whoa, you know what I mean? That's why this stuff is pumped, because it is a control mechanism.
It is, and I mean this is a great bridge to all the levers of potential societal control that we're touching on, because you, my friend, have really steeped yourself in a very creative way.
Yes.
Yes. Reach for the plug. Reach for the plug. So
Yeah.
we are celebrating. Are those hardcovers?
This is a hardcover, yeah.
Look out!
Yeah, the hardcover's my favorite. Sexy.
Of course, dude. That's electric. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to. I did settle. I did not settle. I invested in the audiobook because
Okay.
I relished the opportunity to hear you in your total deadpan. Like what was I? There was something from Cindy Lou. Just hearing you say Cindy Lou was starting to wonder, was she really feeling this? Just simple things like that.
Yeah.
Which even if read on a page, I don't know if they would have. I'm sure they would still pack a good punch.
Yeah.
But in your seminal work, The Sharter, as I alluded to earlier, I had the very humbling experience, which turned into a comical experience, of realizing that I used to be steeped in the world of carrying. I mean, my first identity, man. Growing up, looking for it, going from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, Catholic school, and then going to Dorchester, Greater Boston for high school. Around the most black kids I've ever seen in my life was to pretend I was black, because I had an envy, and which I think a lot of us grew up with is a genuine envy for that culture, especially as athletes. We've been convinced that there's a coolness that comes out of the black community, which is now synonymous with hip hop culture, and that's not really how I think of it, because there's so much more to any culture than just what's in the media. But I did have to take a long, laughable look at myself to realize that I was caught up in that for a minute, and thankfully not a minute that extended until this current age, where it is a lot more cosmically funny and ironic and just obviously stupid and lacking any importance. But I got hip to after a while, okay, the Sharter and Turdman. I said, yeah, I used to be so interested in the lore around Birdman and Lil Wayne before I realized, thanks to you, just how obscene that we take these things for granted, these stories around pop culture that, if it happened amongst our neighbors, we would be horrified. We would be truly scandalized. So, of all the places to start out, this is the question for any creative: is how did you convince yourself? What were the conversations of delusional confidence that you had with yourself that maybe not even does the world need this story? Why did you feel so compelled to tell this story in the way that you did? To take this comic commentary on the culture and do it. I mean, I thought truly, man, masterfully done. I mean, brilliantly done. It resonated with me so much, thankfully because of the humor as well, but also, just the reality of the pure distraction that takes people out of their own self-awareness and self-identity to then identify with these things that are inverted and harmful and at even just the surface level distractive. So, what was the why for you behind letting it fly with the pen?
So the why came from my own personal journey out of hip-hop hypnosis, because I was the biggest fan ever. I was the biggest Eminem fan growing up. Who did I look up to? Eminem, 50 Cent, and the G Unit. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so that's what everybody was sort of into. And, Jay-Z, and then later Lil Wayne and Kanye came, and it was everybody was having a great time. It was Drake, all this stuff. And, if you were to see my old high school basketball photo, we all have shaved heads. Some of us have earrings. At least one guy on the team literally had G-Unit sneakers. We were all wearing Timberlands every day in the winter. That's just the culture that it was. But a lot of us, for a long time, were under hip-hop hypnosis. And a lot of kids today, young people today, are in a state of hypnosis where you're getting behavior modification through repetition via these melodic beats and these rap artists that sort of use shiny objects and absurd behavior to entertain and intertwine people. So my personal evolution out of hip-hop hypnosis came from me being sort of obsessed with a certain situation. You mentioned Lil Wayne, where young thug Jeffrey Lamar Williams, according to court documents, may or may not have hired a guy to shoot at Lil Wayne's tour bus. Lil Wayne's tour bus was shot at in 2015 by a man named Jimmy Winfrey, who was, for a time period, a very close associate of Young Thug. So I was like totally ensnared by this conspiracy, obsessed with it, was writing about it. And for a while, the 2017 to 2018 time period where XXX Tentacion, Mac Miller, Nipsey Hussle, Lil Peep, Juice WRLD, you go a few years later, Pop Smoke, you could go on and on. I mentioned Mac Miller, a bunch just dying all the time. And for a while, I was working on a book about, like a truther book about all the conspiracies about all these different deaths. And then I just got disgusted with the whole thing. And I'll never forget listening to Lil Wayne's Carter 5 and just being disgusted. I went to a Lil Wayne concert in 2008. You know what I mean? And then I went to another one with some of my buddies, a Drake and Lil Wayne concert, right? And then to do all this research and then just be disgusted with the whole scene, I realized that a truther book might not be the best route. A better route is to make fun of the whole thing, call it the Sharter, and totally lampoon the whole thing. Because once you see how ridiculous it is and insane that any of us ever thought this was cool, and any of us would ever even think about passing this garbage onto our children, is insane. And there's something that needs to be done about it. So I thought the best way, and I had a lot of fun. I was laughing my ass off writing this thing. You know what I mean? So from there, it's like, okay, this is what I can do. And then from there, after the book, it's like, okay, I'm going to do an audio book. Because, a book is a luxury item. People have to have time, peace, quiet. But I love audiobooks, man. I can do them all the time on the go. So I did the audiobook and then released it. And it's there, man. thesharterbook.com, hiphophypnosis.com. I'm selling autographed copies of the hardcover and the paperback, but it took a lot of work. This is all like ludicrous comedy that keeps getting more ridiculous. And the audiobook's like 10 hours. That was work. The book work, crashing out, crashing up all the time. I'm working on a new book that'll be out in fall 26, about a surf assassin. So who joins the secret society. I found fiction, man. I never thought I'd be a fiction author, but here I am, and it's
do you have love for fiction as a reader? I mean,
definitely.
Did you grow up with
Okay.
And what are some? Well, first of all, Al, I celebrate you. I'm grateful to you because that was just such a pattern interrupt for me. It was your nudge. I'd heard, obviously in bringing endorsements from people like Christopher Gardner, but just when we got in touch and you said, make sure you read the book, I said, well, great. And thankfully the audiobook, that makes such a difference in and of itself as well. Cause again, your special delivery, to read through that in your tone or to listen to it with your tone was just so epic. But if you would indulge, especially anyone listening to this as well, when we talk about, with the clarity that you see it now of the insanity with, which is a fair description, give us one example. I'm going to use one, even though I was never a huge Eminem fan. There's some of the most violent and just, truly insane, debaucherous lyrics, chopping people up and, raping and, all this wild stuff. It doesn't matter if you're white or black. It's just crazy. It doesn't really matter. And a lot of the music never appealed to me. It was always seemed, dark and kind of schizophrenic, but, anywhere you can pull from on that thread, if it's a realization of yours to help people see, just truly why this is so out of alignment with what we would hope for, our kids or just our community. Like, how did we come to this place where this stuff is in fact valued to some degree, or we're all under this, it is hypnosis. So I'll pause there. Just give us one example from rap culture, an artist, a historical lore, a lyric, or anything like that is truly insane.
Well, okay, I'll just start with their names.
Please.
Yeah. So a big popular rapper now he goes by the name of Pooh Shiesty. His name means shitty and untrustworthy. And then who accompanies him? A guy's named Lil Baby and Da Baby. Lil Baby, Da Baby, you know what I mean? It's like, those guys are fresh out of a Diddy party. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then from there, on the women's side,
oh gosh.
you have, this is one of the most insane examples, Meg the Stallion. huge artist. She's dating this NBA player, whatever. Her name, Stallion, means male breeding horse.
I don't.
And nobody within her team, within her fans, hey, are you calling yourself a male horse with testicles? Why are you doing this? You know what I mean? And then another female rapper calls herself Glorilla. And these are big artists. She's calling herself a gorilla. You know what I'm saying? These are just their names without even getting into their, nonsense lyrics. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and so when we talk about fiction, we talk about some of my favorite writers like Frank Herbert, who wrote Dune, or Elmore Leonard. He's like my guy right now. That's a real writer. You're going to tell me J. Cole is a writer? You're going to tell me that Little Baby is just blowing you away with his bars? It's a joke. And you've been tricked. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if the beats are catchy. It's just an embarrassment at this point.
Some are. I can't remember the last time I heard, if I follow an athlete now and whatever, they add to their highlight Instagram video. It's been a while since I've heard anything that I know as contemporary that actually sounds good. You familiar with the work of Eileen McCusick?
Love her. Read all her books.
Oh, tremendous. Okay, so I was at Confluence. Are you familiar with Confluence and the way forward? Is that
I'm not.
Okay, we'll talk offline. It's not, doesn't have to be an offline thing, but it was this really special event out in Bandera, Texas last year, and I'm stoked to be going again this year. But she was one of the keynote speakers, and I remember when she was talking especially about her own experience around biofield tuning and listening to people's voices. She said the first time I ever heard Drake, she said, that guy has daddy issues. And, it's, I mean, what's he call himself? Big Pop, Champagne Poppy. That's right. And again, talk about fresh out of a Diddy party is exactly right. And I used to think that he was, and I used to say this as a compliment, I used to think he was the next Michael Jackson. I don't think Michael Jackson is anything worth revering either, because of that sordid history and all of that. But I always thought about that as even if we don't know people's true voices, what they put behind these crazy lyrics that, for the most part are not written by them, are written with most likely an intention to distract, to demoralize, or anything like that. What I wrote down, Al, when you mentioned hip-hop hypnosis, what I wrote down under hypnosis is sound, mantra, and image. Have you done any deep dives on, what the implications of the sound are, or these mantras are, or just some of the imagery around rap culture? I mean, what are anything you want to riff on with those? In terms of how they affect hypnosis?
Well, to put it simply, I mean, I had a hypnosis expert, a former hypnotist. He goes by the name of Mike Williams, Sage of Quay. That guy.
Oh, yeah? I didn't know that was his background. Interesting.
Yeah, so he used to literally be a hypnotist, and he put it quite simply. He said, hypnosis is behavior modification through repetition. So if you have these headphones on and you're hearing these lyrics repeatedly with a beat that taps into your instincts, war drum instincts, right? You're going to receive a lot of behavior modification through repetition. Okay. And it's definitely modifying people's behavior. Oh, music and media doesn't affect people. It does. And, it's a sad state of affairs. And I think that a lot of nefarious, substances, agendas have been normalized through music, not just in hip hop. It's country with the obsessive, just commercialization of alcoholism. It's rock and roll that's what really started the whole thing off, in my view. It's been probably the last at least half century of popular music is tuned the population, the majority for the most part. And I think that, to put it simply, music is the most powerful magic. And if you were to visualize a glass of water next to a stereo, that glass of water is going to vibrate in tune with that stereo. So it's like, and this is old news. I mean, I think Islam has something to say quite interesting about music, and that in the past we probably would have disregarded, but now it's like, wait, what were you talking about with music? Because I just heard this one song that is the most insane and disgusting thing I've ever. What did you guys say about that? So
and what is there?
I'm not sure specifically, but I have one Muslim friend that's like, we have something about that. I think it's been mentioned before. So
I'll have to put a bookmark in that. But I mean that, and you bring up the glass of water as well. I mean, if people are familiar, as they I'm optimistic we'll become more familiar with the work of Veda Austin, or anyone who has started to bring to greater consciousness the fact that water can retain information like sound. We are so much of us is water. Our blood, our cerebrospinal fluid, these things. If we have mantras that we repeat to ourselves or injected into us, almost directly into our blood, then they form in a way within us, and they become part of that. I mean, one of the interesting things for rap culture, and it's definitely gotten a lot worse over time, but I found this out recently, as I start to create new meaning for myself around earning money, value creation, of course, my chosen role as provider, protector, and things like that, and all of that aligning with me doing much more of independent work, as working as a realtor, working as a coach. I had a playlist last year that was a lot of rap and hip hop stuff, and it was all about money. Mm-hmm. And I realized towards the end of this year how much of that was just rooted in scarcity and pure materialism. Mm-hmm. Not even what you might even consider the more redeeming qualities of, go get the money, but not rob and kill and steal and rape and pillage for the money, or like all I'm about is money, like that. But I realized, man, I've had so many years of that programming of money, and just the money, and let it buy you the shit. And I mean, that's an unconscious program if I've ever heard one. And I'm doing a decade plus of that subtle program mm-hmm. that I inherited from that music.
Yeah, it's hyper materialism. And you talk about Drake. I mean, that's kind of the program with him, is to get men indoctrinated into hyper materialism, where it's not just about providing for your family. It's about going shopping at the mall with your friends and getting some new pants.
Well, I did love 50 Cent talking about that. He's like, did he want to take me shopping? I'm like, the fuck?
Yeah.
Shopping with you?
Yeah.
No, it's a trip. And so and forgive me, I don't know if was there something that shook you out of that? I mean, that shook you out of that hypnosis, or was it mostly just from the research of all the death and destruction that is? Did you arrive at the point where it all seemed deliberate? In terms of the conspiracy around, why all the death and why remove these people from, one of the last ones that I actually cared about was, I thought Nipsey Hussle was someone doing something. Mm-hmm. I thought, some of his messaging out of the songs were quality, but, he. To me, I'm like, oh, he gets taken out. He must have been doing something right. But I don't know enough about that myth to dig into it. But what was it when you were digging into, what turned into murder and destruction and loss of life that shook you out of the hypnosis?
It's just the death and the idiocy, and the fact that I ever thought it was cool. Just all of that. And in terms of conspiracy, there's so many different layers to it, because if you're living an insane lifestyle full of substance abuse, you're going to increase your chances of a health deficit. You see what I'm saying? So what happened with Nipsey, it's like he was a rolling 60s Crip. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? He was a gang member, and that's a certain lifestyle. So it's like, there's so many different layers to the conspiracy, and I think I've dove into each layer of all of them. And then, at a certain point, you realize that a lot of these guys aren't actually lying when they rap. A lot of them are telling the truth. Somebody like Julio Fulio, who was gunned down, he was rather honest about his lifestyle, and play stupid games, win stupid prizes, essentially.
It's true. And that should be a wake up call to the rest of us, that why lionize these people. We're not playing the same games. We don't value the same things by any means. And so this is why I especially appreciate it. I love, man, that one of the first names that you thought of when you think of quality impact in terms of storytelling was Frank Herbert. I think I've read, I have the Dune books over my shoulder. And I read the series a couple years ago and instantly wanted to reread them. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe I've gone through them 3 times in the last 4 years or something like that. What kind of love do you have for Dune? I mean, what did you value? What were some of the impacts of reading that dynamic, rich story that, I mean, I think from the jump, I mean, I think the way those stories are told, just throwing you into the deep end, you don't need, whole prehistories. It's just, I was just caught up in the maelstrom of that story from the beginning, and then watching being witness to these intense evolutions of, battling with rulership, morality, all these, really, I think, human themes and timeless themes. It's been a singular impact for me for sure. So what kind of love do you have for Dune, and what do you think of when, if you were to tell someone to read Dune, how would you encourage them to lean in?
You can learn more about geopolitics from reading Dune than you can from 25 of the latest liberal conservative commentators. It doesn't matter. Read Dune. The big metaphor I see within it is that I see the spice trade as the vice trade, where the parasite that grows these worms that runs that universe is people's own vices being used to compromise one another. But there's so many different multi-layered metaphors in Dune. It's just a truly inspiring thing, because the beautiful thing about fiction is you can say what you want to say. Something like Dracula comes to mind, where it's a great work of fiction, but he's saying a lot. Pinocchio, another example. The Sharter, a comedic journey out of Hip-Hop Hypnosis, is saying a lot. But it's said in a way that's entertaining and funny in a story. But Tom, this has been awesome, man. This has been about an hour and a half. I got to eat dinner soon. We could talk all day, but
I believe we can.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to respect your dining hour of 7:30. So credit to you for drawing boundaries, Al. That's something we do not learn in the culture today. So you'll hear from me soon. But any final words you want to share with me or any of the brave and willing and able souls out there listening, other than, especially tell us where you can find your book and your works.
You can find my book, The Sharter, a comedic journey out of Hip-Hop Hypnosis. Hiphophypnosis.com will bring you to the Amazon page. You can get the paperback or hardcover. If you want an autograph, go to thecharterbook.com. If you want any of my links, go to alfonsofr.com.
And I give it a 5-star, 2 thumbs up, full endorsement from my perspective. Al, I always value and appreciate your candid perspective on any and everything, just your willingness to be curious, change your mind, to seek and to find. And I know, and we'll talk about this another time, that you're doing it all in a grounded way, looking to just impact your own world so that can ripple out and make its effects. So I say keep rolling, man. You've got a fervent supporter in me, ready to circulate all the good things you do, especially in this essential time of creation. So it's been a pleasure and a privilege to have you, man. I'm looking forward to running it back soon.
I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you so much. When you talk about creation, the Sharter is the soil to grow something new, So I appreciate you, Tom. It was awesome talking to you.
A pleasure, man.